Hey folks, welcome to the show. First game of the Oilers and Kings in the first round of this time is 2024 playoffs, because I have to emphasize which year since it's the third time in a row and both teams have a book on each other, or at least you'd think the Kings would have a book on the Oilers. Maybe they do, it's just out talent at this point. Because the Oilers felt like they had a book on the Kings. They controlled the game very well. There were some mistakes by the Oilers, and we'll get into that though. But the general sense is that I'll turn down my music. the general sense is that the Oilers dominated the Kings in a lot of fashions and in a lot of ways. There was a couple points where the Kings were able to have some favorable rushes and chances. The Oilers did screw up. Skinner was usually able to make a big save, just as Talbot was on the other end, but Skinner didn't have to make as many big plays as Talbot needed to, and Talbot couldn't make them all, which is understandable. But we'll get all into that at the end. Let's talk about the goals and the penalties and how they came. So the first period begins, and the Oilers set the tone. Fogle lays a massive hit, knocking over Doughty, before Nurse lays another big hit mid-ice. Throughout the game, whenever Doughty had the puck, he was getting booed, and he usually got hit as well, which I think is good. With all due respect to Doughty, absolute Hall of Famer in my mind, first ballot, easy, but it's good for the Oilers to do this. It gets the fans engaged and the team engaged, and sets the tone earlier that we're not the soft team that we were years ago. We're not just better offensively, but we're tougher. Kings did have more hits in the game, but that's more of a product of not having the puck as much, but they still got quite a few hits. Eventually, a goal does find the back of the net. It's Zachary Hyman after a beautiful spin and assist from Connor McDavid. Zachary Hyman scores the first goal of the playoffs between the two teams. Bouchard got the secondary assist. That goal came 8 seconds before the 7-minute mark in the first period, or 7 minutes into the first period, because when you're watching the game, it counts down, but in the actual notes, the time counts up. So, anyways, that's why I emphasize into the period. And then that line of McDavid centering Hyman and Henrique results in another goal almost 3 minutes later, with Adam Henrique scoring his first playoff goal in a very long time. He's assisted by Zach Hyman and Evan Bouchard. Henrique now holds the record for the most amount of time in between a playoff goal, because his last playoff goal was 4,333 days ago, breaking Craig Ludwig's record. Craig Ludwig being a defensive defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens. So maybe his streak was a little more impressive, if you'd like to say, because he was in the playoffs a lot with Canadians, and Henrique wasn't. But at the same time, Henrique's a forward. So, either way, I'm not sure it's really a record guys look for, but it's kind of like, yeah, I have it. 3 minutes later, almost, Dubois takes a very stupid penalty by interfering with Connor McDavid. McDavid was getting into it with another Kings player, and Dubois comes over and hits McDavid. And McDavid didn't have the puck or anything, and the ref was letting it go between McDavid and this King player, because it's like, well, they're just getting into it. It's intense. And Dubois comes from nowhere and hits it. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Fortunately, the Kings' second best penalty kill of the league does hold up and kills that penalty before going on a power play of themselves. With a minute and 4 seconds out from the second period or first intermission, Adam Henrique trips up Arvidsson. The Oilers do manage to kill that penalty before intermission, with shots 15-7 in favor of the Oilers. Second period opens, and the Oilers do kill off the rest of that penalty before they score again. 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the second period, it's Zachary Hyman, his second goal of the game, assisted by Connor McDavid and Adam Henrique. Zachary Hyman then finds himself in the box just under a minute later after interfering with Cam Talbot. I saw a few Oilers fans saying, well, the guy behind him was pushing him into the goalie. Maybe Zach Hyman wasn't really making enough of an effort to not run into Cam Talbot, so fair call. Very fair call. But the Oilers do kill that penalty, and not long after that penalty is killed, Philip Deneau goes off for high-sticking Zachary Hyman, And this time the Oilers do score on the power play. It only took 25 seconds, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins scores his first goal of the playoffs with a beautiful feed from Leon Draisaitl, who in turn got a nice long feed from Connor McDavid. I keep saying first goal of the playoffs by nature. It's kind of habitual to say which goal of it is, but like it's the first goal for pretty much everybody here, except for Zach Hyman, who's at 2 at this point. Anyways, 2.5 minutes later, the Kings do get a goal for themselves. Mikey Anderson finds the back of the net with his shot. He's assisted by Drew Doughty and Victor Arvidsson. So it's a 4-1 game. I don't think anybody said shutout, and I hope nobody was thinking it too much, but you could tell that it was pretty disappointing for the Oilers to allow one in, which I'm glad to see. I'm glad that they were disappointed that it was only a 4-1 lead instead of 4-0, because really it's not that big of a deal, but you'd still like to get a shutout for your goalie. Really sets the tone. And this game was kind of weird in setting tones. It set a lot of tones, but also set a weird tone, which occurred in the third period. But before the third period could come around, Trevor Moore trips up Vinny Desharnais 20 seconds before the period closes. It's a very dumb penalty by the Kings. They like to take dumb penalties against the Oilers. I think the Oilers are just at a point where they're trying to get it where they'll hit the Kings, and it's not quite dirty enough to get a penalty, and then the Kings will do a revenge hit, which is dirty enough. This one was pretty ugly. So Vinny Desharnais, he takes down Doughty with a hit of his own. It was a really good hit, nice play, and then Trevor Moore comes by, and you couldn't really see it at first when it happened because Desharnais had passed it, and the camera wasn't on it. But Desharnais was down, and you're kind of wondering what happened. And you look at the play, and it was really not good play. Some people said, well, it was just a hip check because Trevor Moore was bending down, just hip checking Desharnais. He was going really down low. He was going down towards Desharnais' knees, and takes out his knees, and he falls over, and he gets up in pain. He does return in the third period, so he was okay. That's fine, but really dangerous play. I'm okay with it not being a double minor because it didn't look too malicious, too bad. But if a ref said that was a double minor, I wouldn't have been shocked either. So anyways, second period ends with a 4-2 lead for the Oilers. So once again, 2-goal lead heading into the second intermission. Shots were 17-15 for the Kings. But early in the period, the Oilers do convert on that power play. It's Leon Draisaitl scoring via Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard. You've heard those two names quite a bit now, and you'll hear them more soon, because you can see what the score goes to in the title. 4 minutes later, I almost said Pavel. Pierre-Luc Dubois takes another penalty drawn by Leon Draisaitl. This time, I will come to his defense, it was pretty soft. I think it was just more of a coincidence that Draisaitl fell while trying to make a play at the same time. Dubois' arms were on him, but they weren't like going around him or anything. They were just kind of like on his back, and it wasn't pushing or anything. It looked really soft. But I could see what the refs were thinking happened, so I don't really think it was like a terrible call. 'Cause again, you could follow their logic. That's my rules. Even if you disagree, as long as you can follow their logic, it makes sense. I'm okay. Or I'll say it wasn't bad. But it was weak. It was a weak call. But the Oilers, once again, do convert on this one. And it's Zachary Hyman scoring his third goal of the game for his first career playoff hat-trick. And guess who he's assisted by? Go on, guess. You'll never guess that it was Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard. So while Zachary Hyman gets his first hat-trick of the game, there's hats flying everywhere. Like, it takes a while for the cleanup crew to get all the hats. McDavid becomes the first player to have 5 assists in a postseason game since Geoff Courtnall with the St. Louis Blues in 1998. 26 years. So just incredible game from those 3. So that is Hyman's 4th point of the game, as well as Bouchard's 4th point of the game, and it was McDavid's 5th point of the game. After that, it's pretty much confirmed that the Oilers are going to win. There's not much fight left in the Kings. You know, they're still trying in case something happens, which something does happen twice. And the Oilers are still pushing and controlling. It seemed more like the Kings were just waiting to get out of there, which I'm not sure if I like that mentality because it's a postseason. It's not like it's a regular season game. It's a postseason. You want to leave a message. But also 6-2. And the Kings did leave a message. It was a weird one because the Kings do score 2 goals on the Nurse CC line, but it's hard to really blame Nurse CC because it was really bad luck. It's just, I would say Nurse and CC should, if they're gambling people, if they like placing bets or anything, don't do it for like a month after these 2 goals. Almost 17 minutes into the third period, Dubois has a pass that's tipped by Nurse's skate perfectly into the net, and Dubois is assisted by Kempe. And before you can say, oh, of course it was Nurse, but it's like, Nurse was doing everything he should have. It's just, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, where the puck is just accidentally placed right in the perfect way that your skate is angled to go straight into the net. Maybe Skinner could have moved further to the left, but still you're not really going to take up too much issue. I wonder if at some point, if not already, defenders are learning how to place their skates so that they're not tipping a puck or something. And maybe they already do. It's just a matter of being that aware that an errant pass is coming for your skate, which is perfectly pointed to deflect it into the net. So it's hard to blame Nurse or Skinner on that, but at any point, puck's in the back of the net, and it's a 6-3 game. But as long as there's not another accidental weird goal, it's pretty much over. Well, there was another accidental weird goal. Cody Ceci has the puck with almost 19 minutes into the third period. And before you say, oh, of course it was Cody Ceci, this could happen to anyone. He has the puck. 2 Kings players come down, and it's in the defensive zone. And he makes a pass to Nurse. But the problem is his stick explodes on him. And he tries to whack at it with his broken stick, which he shouldn't do. That could be a penalty. And he's just diving out trying to get it to it. But it ends up in the Kings' hands, who have a 2-0. And it's a 6-4 game. It's a 2-goal lead now all of a sudden on 2 very wacky plays, which if you want to blame Nurse and Ceci for having really bad luck, okay. But, that was really weird plays. Anyways, Laferriere picks up the assist on that Trevor Moore goal to make it 6-4. And, the Kings weren't really expecting to make a comeback, but they pull the goalie just in case, and the Oilers do score on it. It's Warren Foegele unassisted, who had been trying really hard in the first period. He's a guy who tries really hard to get every shot, and this one finally went in, although it required Talbot not being in the net. And the game ended 7-4. Shots were 15-13 for the Oilers in the third period. You'll notice I said 15 3 times because the Oilers had exactly 15 shots in all 3 periods. Not like a super meaningful stat, but kind of weird. So lots of shots during that game. The shots were 45-37 for the Oilers. So while I applaud for the Oilers for controlling the game almost entirely and getting a ton of shots themselves, Talbot had to make quite a few saves, and there was quite a few near misses. The score could have been a lot higher for the Oilers. It could have been for the Kings too, because the Kings did manage off 37 shots, and Skinner made a few big saves, but those big saves were kind of nullified by those 2 really weird plays in the defensive zone that just you don't expect to happen, but you should be ready for. So anyways, I'd have to give mostly favorable thumbs up to the Oilers' defense, but they could have done better. They could have been tighter, but Skinner was quite good still. Face-offs were the Oilers' favor at 55.6%, and if the Kings had hoped of using their second best penalty kill in the league against the Oilers, it didn't work because after killing the first penalty, they allowed 3 power play goals. I don't know if they did that all season, because I know there was a point of the season where they were talking about how the Kings never allowed multiple power play goals. I don't know if that happened during the season, but whether it did or not, the Oilers had 3 power play goals in 4 opportunities and killed both of the power plays the Kings had. So elite special teams for the Oilers as well. Goaltending for Skinner and Talbot were both kind of mixed. Yeah, they were both below 900, but a lot of goalies would have been below 900 during this game. Skinner and Talbot would have had to make quite a few elite saves. Quite a few more, because they both had some really good saves. But they would have needed a lot more to not be below 900. Skinner saved 33 for 37. Talbot, 38 for 40. No, wait, I did that wrong. It was 38 for 44. I accidentally wrote 42. It was 38 for 44 is what he did. In terms of Oilers 3 stars, well, it's the three names you heard the most. It's Bouchard at third. He had 4 assists, 3 shots on goal, a hit, 3 blocks, and a takeaway for 21 minutes and 51 seconds on ice. Second star was Zachary Hyman. 3 goals, 1 assist, 9 shots on goal, 5 hits, a block, and a takeaway in his 18.5 minutes on ice. And then McDavid was your first star. 5 assists, 3 shots on goals, 3 hits, a block, and a takeaway in his 18 minutes and 47 seconds of time on ice. Hyman did have the better stat line, but all 3 of his goals were assisted by McDavid. And all 3 of them, I would say McDavid did more of the work on. So if you're of the belief that Hyman only scores because of McDavid, I'd say you're wrong. But I wouldn't blame you after watching that game, especially on the third one. Because the first 2 goals Hyman scored, he still had to shoot the puck. But that third one, he just stood there. He really just stood there. He just had to deflect it with his stick, lift up his skate, and it went in. Usually a player has to work to be in that position. That's why I respect Hyman in there, because you usually have to work very hard to be down there, and you take a big beating. And Hyman does a lot, but during that one, he was just kind of there in the open. It was a penalty kill for the Kings, so they didn't have a guy to cover everybody. But, usually if a guy is by your net, you're usually going to go beat him up. But the Kings were playing a triangle style of defense, which can work on the penalty kill. It works a lot. It's kind of the trendy thing, as Kevin Bieksa said in the intermission. But the Oilers were able to work around it quite well. Again, scoring 3-on-4 power play goals against the league's second best penalty kill. So excellent game for the Oilers with a weird aftertaste, because it should have ended 6-2, but it ended 7-4 when it was a really dominant game. But it just kind of was, because of those weird goals. It's just kind of like, that was weird taste, like I said. So the next game is Wednesday night at the same time, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I don't like going into a game expecting a win, especially in the playoffs. But there wasn't much reason to expect the Kings to win after this. The Oilers are a lead at home. The Oilers seem to have the Kings figured out, while the Kings are still trying to figure out the Oilers. The Oilers are just seem able to manipulate all the Kings' emotions at will, being able to get power plays when they want. The Kings are going to have to look to Cam Talbot to make a lot more saves than humanly possible to win, or for the Kings to establish their own control, which they have. They beat the Oilers 4-0, remember, this year. That was with, is it Jim Hiller is their coach, I believe? I know it's Hiller. That was his first game as coach with Kings, was beating the Oilers 4-0, so they can do it. But if you watch my predictions, you would see that I predicted a sweep. And while I don't expect a sweep, it's just I felt like I had to predict one of the series to be a sweep, and this one was a little easier. And I think Kings fans will understand and not say it's me being Oilers biased. You can watch the games like, yeah, you can see what I'm getting at. But we'll see. Again, I'm not going to expect to win, because, like you said, you never know. But this game wasn't a big enough beatdown for the Oilers to get cocky. But it was still very well controlled by the Oilers that it's hard to have much hope as a Kings fan, at least from what I've seen online. You can absolutely let me know your thoughts down below. And before I close, please feel like liking the video. That really helps. Commenting your thoughts as well. I'm happy to hear them. And subscribe and turn on notifications for more. I'll absolutely do a review for each Oilers game, assuming the Oilers don't get eliminated in an ugly fashion. I'll still do a video. It just might not come out immediately. And then I have some other analysis videos planned. One is a really big one that I'm not sure when it will be ready, but I'm really excited by it. I'm working on it quite a bit through the day. But it's a massive project. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks again so much. I hope to see you in the next one.